Namaste and greetings from Center for Education Social Studies. On behalf of CES, I welcome the speaker for today, Dr. Narendra Sir, and our Honorary Professor, Dr. G.P. Sudhakar Sir. So I welcome you all. I also welcome all the participants for this session. On behalf of CES, I welcome today's session on the topic entitled Nyaya and Project Management Principles. Bharatiya management principles are rooted in our ancient Indian wisdom, which offers a unique blend of ethical values and practical insights for modern management. Integrating Bharatiya management into contemporary practice can lead to more balanced, ethical, and effective management strategies, nurturing a work environment that values integrity and collective growth. Integrating Nyaya principles into project management offers a structured and logical approach to achieve project success, emphasizing reliable source of knowledge, aligns with data-driven decision-making, applying logical reasoning aids in problem-solving and justifying actions, encouraging open debates, fosters collaborative brainstorming. So in the light of this, integration promotes a disciplined and thoughtful approach to project management and enhancing the overall efficiency and outcomes. We have amidst us today Dr. G.P. Sudhakar Sir, our Honorary Professor of CES, an accomplished academic administrator with 8 years of experience managing postgraduate business programs and a proven track record of building new MBA programs and developing business school plans. He has over 15 years of teaching experience at business schools, backed by 2 decades in the industry. And he is also the president of National and Rural Education, published to Prince All of India. He is also the president of National Rural Education Association, Gauri Bidnur, and his contribution to Bharatiya management is well appreciated. At the outset, now I would request G.P. Sudhakar to give the opening remarks for the program. Over to you, Sudhakar sir.
Namaste to everyone, and welcome to Sri K V Narendra ji. I want to just take a couple of minutes to talk about Center for Education and Social Studies, established in 2006. One of the objectives of this organization has been to mainstream Bharatiya thought in management. So our objective over a period of time is to see that business schools, not of course in the IIMs and the top tier institutions, we have a lot of courses connected with Bharatiya management, like Mahabharata and management or Pachatantra and management, and all of those kind of courses are already existing in the top tier institutions. However, in the normal government or public sector universities, we don't have such courses. And our objective is that we make this area so popular and so common that the universities start having courses based on Bharatiya management. So that is the objective with which CES set out on this journey. We have been on it for about 3 years now, I would say with reasonable success. And those of you who are joining in for the first time, we have one online repository for Bharatiya management called Prabandhan. We also have a lot of videos both on Prabandhan as well as on YouTube regarding Bharatiya management. This is connected with what we have already done. I'm delighted to welcome Sri Narendra ji to talk about Nyaya and project management. Most faculty members teaching project management probably only defer to this, what is that called, PMBOK, right? The PMI Institute's material as a reference point. I'm sure those of you or those of us who have done that, this will be a refreshing change and some different perspective on the same area of project management. I was just talking to Mr. Narendra a couple of minutes ago about how the West is actually borrowing or taking things from ancient Indian wisdom and making it their own. And in the context of Nyaya, only this afternoon, actually, I was going through something about Andagaja Nyaya, about the 6 people who examined the elephant. And finally, each one cannot, say the complete truth or will not be able to describe the entirety. Now, till today afternoon, actually, I believe this is something the West has provided us, the story of the 6 blind men and the elephant, right? So, there is so much that India has to offer, and I look forward to learning from Sri Narendra. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sudhakar. Thank you, Ms. Bhagya.
Sir, just a few seconds, sir. I would take this opportunity to introduce you to our participants, sir.
Yes, please.
Mr. Narendra K V is a managing director and CEO of Rezorce Management Solution Private Limited, who is based in Bangalore and with extensive experience in software product development, staffing, and building business services around intellectual property and patents. Previously, Sir was a president of Medical and Virtual Corporation, delivering staff services in US and Europe. Sir has made a lot of contribution in terms of his notable publications, which includes Lake of Bangalore, which explores the city water bodies and Sankey Tank perspective, and Beetle Blunder in 1993, a critical examination of certain issues, and the status report of Bangalore water supply in 1990, detailing of the city water supply. He's also contributed to vehicular emission standards addressing environmental concerns and status report of Bangalore parks, which evaluates city park facilities. In addition to that, Sir has written a lot of books on management, a failure reminiscence, lessons from a lifetime in management blunders, management thoughts, Indian perspective, Sanskrit, Nyaya, and modern management, gems from Indian experience, Vedic Nitya Puja, daily worship, tools for individual success and prosperity, Bangalore Opedia 2023 on Bangalore history, and Rigveda and Yajurveda Niti Karma, and many more. The list is very long, so we are very honored to have you, Mr. today, to be the speaker for today, sir. We welcome you on behalf of SES and all the participants. Thank you for being the resource person for the day, and the session is over to you now, sir.
Thank you very much. During the introduction, Ms. Bhagya referred to me as Dr. Narendra. I'm not yet a doctor. So that's the first thing. I would like to focus, today on Nyaya and project management principles. Essentially, a lot of us, Nyaya per se, the thing that has happened is that many of us are not aware that we are using these Nyayas in our daily life. Now, these Nyayas are coming from a repository of knowledge, which dates sometimes back to 7,000 years. That is, that is dating back to around 5,000 BC is when the Mahabharata happened. This is these are texts which are much older than Mahabharata. These are coming from many Puranas, Upanishads, and all that. So, yeah, I will just switch over to the presentation, and then I will start. Are you seeing the presentation?
Yes, sir. The presentation is visible, sir.
Yeah, Nyaya and project management principles.
Yes.
Okay. Now, see, when we speak about Nyaya, there are many Nyaya. Nyaya is a word that is used in Sanskrit or Samskrita, as I will like to use it for many things. See, Nyaya is one of the 16 darshanas or philosophies. So that Shat Darshana Nyaya is a equality of all human beings, justice, and all that comes from the Shat Darshana. I am not referring to just the Shat Darshana. I am focusing completely on Nyaya as as a word for maxims or aphorisms. That is, these are very short, pithy statements which express a general truth or rule of conduct. So that is what is the purpose for which that's the focus of today's presentation. So niyate aneneti nyayaha. That's this one. So what we are doing essentially is that I have written a book on Sanskrit maxims, that is Nyaya and modern management. So from the last 7,000 or 8,000 years, many of our shastras or texts use nyayas for expressing a wide variety of knowledge. Now, whenever I am using nyaya in this particular presentation, it is not corresponding to what was the purpose for which it was written, because Shankaracharya, or for that matter Vidyaranya, or for that matter in the Upanishads, they are used essentially for with reference to philosophy or with reference to God. Now I am not using that with reference to that, but the same knowledge we can extrapolate and use it with purpose, with respect to the management. So that is a general what shall I say, thing, this one that I am using. In this particular presentation, I am focused on around there are we are all aware of the PMP. That is PMP. People use PM Work Guide. That is the standard 7th edition. Is a standard project management book of knowledge that people use for writing exams, studying exams, and using it as a reference material. Now, whatever PMI's PMBOK is, what I have done essentially is that leads to PMP certification, and there are more than 1 million PMP certified professionals. What I have done essentially in today's context is that I have taken the project management principles. If you have gone through the PMBOK, you will appreciate that it comes as one of the introductory material. So these 12 project management principles are what they say are extremely essential for someone to grow into a good project manager. So I have roughly around 53 slides today, because each one of these 12 principles, they have many sub-principles. So I am going to just touch base and speak very speak a few words on each one of them, and try and finish this presentation as quickly as possible, because that would give you what shall I say, time to possibly have a discussion or have a kind of a dialogue. Now, the purpose why I have chosen project management principles is because it is not necessarily a PMP certified person who has to use these principles. In normal course, it is necessary for every manager, whether they are called a manager or whether they are not called a manager, but every management professional to use these for the better, as a best practice. So I will like to, the first principle that we have, I'm starting from, if you're going up, we are starting about from be diligent, respectful, and caring right at the top. I am moving to collaborative team environment, engage with stakeholders, focus on value, recognize, evaluate, and respond to system interactions, demonstrate leadership behavior. See, the whole process I'm moving in a very systematic manner here. Now, the first principle that the PMBOK speaks about is be diligent, respectful, and caring steward. The steward is somebody who guides the ship, who is who has the responsibility both within the and external to the organization. Now, within the first principle, there are 3 sub-principles. One is responsibilities within and external to the organization. The second one is stewardship includes integrity, care, trustworthiness, and compliance. The third one is holistic view of environment. Now, what we have to just keep in mind is that there are many nyayas that one can use for each one of them. Now, it would become a huge, what shall I say, cluster and huge amount of confusion if I use more than one. So, for example's sake, I am just taking one nyaya for each purposes. So the first one that we are talking about is within be diligent and respectful and caring. First one is responsibilities within and external to the organization. The principle I am using here is Hasti Yutha Pati Nyayaha. That is, a leader, Pati is a leader of elephants, Hasti, must lead the herd with strength, courage, discretion, and foresight. That is, this is a matriarch elephant. An elephant is, she knows the terrain, she knows the particular, habits of each individual members of the unit. She is also caring, responsible, and she protects the unit from external people. So this is how a manager must actually be within the project. They cannot consider their peers or colleagues to be a subordinate, or just to hang around them, or to be what shall I say, to reflect, or as a to be looked at as a competitor. But a good project manager must necessarily be like a matriarch elephant. So that is the first nyaya that we are speaking about. The second sub-principle that is there is stewardship includes integrity, care, trustworthiness, and compliance. What we are speaking about is Swaprakasha Ashraya Nyayaha. That is, a person who is sitting in a very exalted position should be like the sun. A manager should be necessarily like the sun. Sun does not discriminate between religion, language, culture, nothing. The sun provides equal or almost the same kind of, uh, same kind of benefit and even hurt to people who are who can actually what shall I say, who are exposed to that. So a manager should essentially be like an universal, he should protect everybody equally. There should be no discrimination, and there should be openness, truth, and trust that should come in a relationship. The third point is holistic view of environment, keeping the light in the middle of the room. Madhya Deepika Nyaya, that is what we are speaking about. Holistic view of environment, if you look at that picture, you will realize that essentially, if one light is what is required to light up the entire room, it's not, necessary to have as many lights as people there. One very strong light in the center of the room will actually, make sure that the entire environment is, lighted. And what is also important is that a manager should be in a position to get a comprehensive picture of what's happening all around them. He should be like the light that is lighting up the entire room, and should provide the enough vision, or enough amount of knowledge, or this one to light up the entire, to know what is happening in the entire project. The second aspect that we are speaking about, the second principle we are talking about is be diligent, respectful, and caring. Now, many project managers essentially, they think that the moment they have got a designation, in my own experience, I have seen that people start behaving like a boss and stop understanding that any kind of promotion is a responsibility. It is not a power. So this is a very important, absolutely important aspect a manager should be having. Many people do forget this. So what are the three aspects that make up this diligent, respectful, and caring manager? First one is there should be team agreements. Second one is there should be an organizational structure that promotes respect and caring for everybody. And number three, there must be processes where everybody knows what they are responsible for and what they have to deliver. So these are three things that are very important. And even more important for all these things is people must recognize, or we need to feel that they are a part of the team, that they are not external to the team. In the second principle, the first sub principle is team agreements. We are talking about Andha Pangu Nyayaha. Andha means he is a blind man. Pangu is a essentially a lame man. So a lame man sits on top of a blind man, and both of them navigate and reach a particular goal. See, what it essentially means is that everybody in the team cannot be as good or as bad as like the manager. Each person has their own strengths. Each person has their own what shall I say weaknesses. And many times, if a manager sits and understands his team, he will analyze, or he or she will be in a position to pick up the complementary strengths of all individuals. So when the team are, when the complementary strengths are actually analyzed, then there will be a broad agreement on how the team should work and what should be the how the responsibilities within the team has to be broken down. So this is the first one. Second one is the organizational structure. Ratha Vadhava Nyaya. That is, multiple horses pulling a chariot. See, if all the horses are running in the same structure, and then there is a lead horse which goes further and leads the entire team, then the horses will run very very fast, and they without any of the horses getting actually tired. Even if they run for hundreds of kilometers, the horses don't essentially seem very tired. But if one horse has to carry not only himself but the load of other horses as well as the cart, then it is quite possible that after a few, a couple of kilometers, the cart will come to a stop because the horse will not be able to pull together. So the organization structure must be in such a manner that everybody is pulling the cart, all the horses are pulling the cart, and they all run together in the same direction with the same speed. And that's how the structure will, complement and produce a very, very beneficial results to the team. The third one we are speaking about is, the processes. Pradeepe Pradipam Prajvalya Tamo Nasaya Tamana. That is, when the whatever the area that is directly under a particular candle, that is always dark. So the thing is that, if the manager or if a few people in the team take on the responsibility of running the entire project, and they are not bothered about everybody else in the team, or they just say that, okay, this fellow is useless, that person is lazy or something else, or somebody fights or somebody talks back, and they keep on ignoring people, then it quite naturally happens that the project will not, there will be more friction in the project than any progress. So what is actually important here is that the processes must be in such a manner that the entire room that is, that we see here should be lighted, and because the area directly under the candle will always be dark. So the manager must be ideally the light, and the entire team must be, not below the candle, that is below the light, but they must be spread across the room. That is, the processes must be in such a manner that everybody gets an opportunity to deliver results. The third principle that we are speaking about is to engage with stakeholders. So here, stakeholders are not just the team. Stakeholders are not just the boss of the manager or the management of the company where we work, but it also includes our customers, it includes our vendors, it includes the people who are otherwise affected with the project. See, let us assume that there is an environmental impact. So some villagers, maybe 50, 60 kilometers down the river, may be affected with what we are doing within the company. Then there may be situations where our work may affect people sitting across the globe. There may be a different team sitting in Australia or New Zealand or America who are working during their night hours. And if we don't deliver on time, then it is very likely that they will be affected very badly. So we should keep all this, we should identify all stakeholders when we are actually starting the project or when we are undertaking any activity. This is something that I have seen many project, many project managers never do. They think that their project is the POC on the customer side and the boss, that is to whom they have to report their progress, and the immediate team. That is what constitutes the stakeholders. But unfortunately or fortunately, the stakeholders list is much, much longer. What we are talking here is that we are talking about yavatailam tavada kya nam nyaya. That is, what used to happen in earlier times is that people used to budget, like, there used to be music programs or storytelling programs or things like that in villages, during the night. Even now, many drama in villages, if you go, dramas are happening only in the night. But in those days, there used to be no electricity. So they used to do this in the lampshade. So what used to happen was that the performer used to decide on, understand how much light is, how much of oil is there in the lamp, and on that basis they used to decide how much of performance, how long the performance has to go on, because once the light, the lamp goes off, then everything will be darkness and people even can't go back home. So what is required is that the important is that the project manager has to identify the stakeholders. With respect to that, they will have to define the time, the budget, and the resources. And then they will have to keep everybody's interest in mind before they start when they start the project planning process itself. So this is a very interesting concept that is there. The third part is to engage with stakeholders. Rekha Ghavaya Nyaya. That is, what this is something that that is very, if any of you are in the software development projects, you will see this. You would possibly have a lot of experience to share. What actually happens is that you possibly, even people who receive mechanical designs and drawings and all that, essentially, they will get a set of instructions through some document, or maybe, if they are very lucky, they will get a good design document or a prototype. Most likely, it will not even be a prototype; it will be a description document. Now, what happens is that once you read the document, each person in the team will have their own analysis of what the customer requires. Here, what we are talking about is that what the customer may actually need and what we are thinking that the customer needs, they become they are very, very different. So, Rekha Gavaya Nyaya is that in a forest, a person, a city dweller, who has not seen a bison in the forest, it's just like he goes and asks the forest dweller to describe the bison. So when he actually sees a rough sketch of the animal, he will then realize that a bison is nothing but, it's just like another buffalo or a cow that he sees every day. It's nothing extraordinary. So what we really has to do is that a manager will have to sit personally with the customer who wants the project, not necessarily who pays for the project. Because one mistake we do is that we go and sit with the guy who gives us the budget. No, it's not that we should sit with the guy who gives us the budget. He is important, no doubt, but we have to sit with the person who actually needs the project, who will use this project every day. So the user's perspective is a lot more important to us than what we believe is the requirement of the customer. The next one is, the third aspect of engaging with stakeholders is Varaha Goshti Nyayaha. That is what actually happens in any Indian scenario. Anybody outside India or not, who doesn't know the Indian scenario may not appreciate this. But in India, when marriages are held, it is not an agreement or arrangement between the boy and girl. It is just that both the parties, the parents, uncles, aunts, everybody sit together, they discuss the entire thing, the negotiations go on till everybody is happy, and end of the day something is agreed, and whatever is agreed has to be delivered. In the same manner, the process of negotiation is absolutely important. Every project manager, I have seen project managers who run away from negotiations because they are afraid that they will lose. But it is most important that every project manager, they have to engage with the stakeholders. They have to sit with the stakeholders. They have to understand what is both the explicit and implicit expectation. Because in my own experience of 35 years, the document is the explicit expectation. But what the users require is very, very implicit. It's never expressed in words. So when you actually start talking to them, they will then come up and tell us that this is what we are actually looking for. This is why some project failed in the past, or something else happened in the past, or some other feedback is given. So this is how you have to just like in a marriage, you have to be very patient. You can't lose the trust of the customer. You have to keep on egging them to talk. You have to keep on asking them to express their opinion. And that is the only way we are in a position to make sure that the project will be successful. Fourth principle is a focus on value. The value is what value addition that we bring to the project. Not the core thing that we deliver in the project. The first value has to come in the form of the business need itself. That is, as I said in the last slide, we have to keep on talking to the customer to understand what is that they essentially need. And we have to see how we can deliver that essential requirement. But beyond that, we have to use our professional expertise to see if there is something that the customer has not visualized, but we can deliver. The second aspect is the project justification itself. Many times what I have seen is that people are not clear about the justification of the project. See, when we are talking of return on investment on a project, it is completely in terms of mathematical numbers. But in a service industry, the arriving at mathematic numbers is very easy. But what justifies a project is the actual usability, and that is what is the very key aspect to getting value to the project. A project manager can only bring a mature project manager can only bring value through project justification is when he is making sure that the users respect and appreciate the product that finally comes out. The third aspect is business strategy. Now, the in that fourth principle, focus on value, the first sub principle is business need, as I said. We are talking about Anda Dharpana Nyaya. That is, when see people, they don't actually in any project, people don't give us a total requirement in the sense that they will not tell us what is that they need 100%. It's you are very, very lucky project manager if a customer can even define 50% of what their implicit needs are. So what is the challenge is that like a blind man using a mirror is of no use to a blind man. A mirror has its use by itself, but for a blind man, a mirror is of no use. Similarly, if you look at it, I was just in the US defense, they say that 80% of the projects are a failure, essentially because the projects are themselves very good, the software products are very good, but they are not of use on the field. So this is not something that should not happen. So what we really have to do is we have to build products that customers can use, strive to obtain assets that people can use, then invest on assets that they can enjoy. So this is a very, very critical aspect. The second aspect is project justification is through Aranya Rodhana Nyaya. That is, if it rains in a parched area, people will jump with joy. They will celebrate festivals. But if it rains on the sea, then the whole purpose of rain is lost because good fresh water, which is drinkable, merges with the salt water in the sea, and there is absolutely there is no use for that water. So what we really have to do is that when we are bringing the value proposition has to be the key focus of the project manager. So what he basically has to do is that he has to focus on activities that bring value directly and indirectly. The first thing is that sitting and understanding customer requirement, more even if you spend 50% of your project time understanding customer requirement, I tell you that my experience suggests that you will be able to deliver project on time that a customer will use. But if you start the project in a hurry, then it is not, it's just like, you do a lot of work and then your customer will come back and say, this is not what I want. So you will spend equal amount, greater amount of time on rework later on. So that is to be avoided. The third one is business strategy. Kala Maitri Nyaya. See, what actually happens is that in many places, see, friends, they appear as foes, foes appear as friends. We don't know what is the interest of different stakeholders in our own project. So, like, there are some people who will keep on pushing, praising us and all that. And at the end of the day, they will simply say that we failed. So that is not a good thing for people for a project manager to be in. So what we really have to do is that we will have to, we have to be very clear, like, we have to spend our time when we are doing the strategy, we have to be very, very clear that we have to know what is our strength, what is our weakness, what are the areas where, project involves research and development, where there is absolutely zero visibility and where we have to be very careful when we thread. These are all things that we have to be very clear. This means that the strategy that we use for purpose of, building the project plan or execution plan, we have to be very, very clear about who is with us, who is against us, and who are our friends, who are our enemies, who are our competitors, who are our, well-wishers. And we have to make sure that we address the needs of each one of these, stakeholders, and we have to make sure that we bring, value to our project in such a manner that we meet or go beyond their expectation. Next is to recognize, fifth principle is to recognize, evaluate, and respond to system interactions. See, when we talk about system interactions, what we are talking about is that essentially how these systems are, they work within a team or outside a team. It can be with empathy of business areas, with the critical thinking. It could be to challenge assumptions and mental models, use modeling and scenarios, proactive management. See, the whole idea is that when we are starting a project or when we are working on a project, we come up with many kinds of challenges. Most of these are what is called as risk within a project management scenario. But for every risk should have a mitigation strategy, and this mitigation strategy must be thought through much ahead of time. And then if there is a way for us to, what shall I say, run those mitigations and see whether it works or not, that is something that we have to do. If we don't do that, then there is a lot of issues that will come about. And then there are a lot of actors that are there, a lot of sub teams that are there, a lot of external teams that are there. So we should know how we are going to interact, what we require from each one of them very clearly when we are getting into the project interaction mode. The first one is with empathy with the business areas. Vatsa Kshira Nyaya. See, Vatsa Kshira Nyaya is that you have got a cow gives milk, not because we can drink it, but it gives milk so that its calf can drink. Once the calf is satisfied, then what normally happens is that we give it to our children and we make sure that, we are all happy. In a similar manner, a project manager must know what is the purpose of each team, what are their focus levels. See, you have got support teams, you've got a HR team, you've got an IS team, you've got a finance team. Now, each team has their own core competencies, they have got their own KRAs, and then they also have to deliver to your needs. So what many managers do is that they don't understand or empathize with what is the limitations in which these teams are working. So when we simply go and demand what we need without understanding whether they have the budget, the capability, whether they have the competency to deliver that, then we are going to end up with a lot of stress. So if you have to, one of the ways we can ensure that these stresses are reduced is when we are, we understand the limitations of everybody, empathize with the other people. Then the critical thinking with respect to big picture process. Kaka Akashi Golaka Nyaya. That is the feeling that there is it in Sanskrit text. No, they say that every cow has only one eyeball, but it has got dual sockets on both sides. So when a crow wants to focus, it will move its eyeball to the right socket or to the left socket and see what it wants to see. In a similar manner, no, every project manager, when they are looking at when they are working on the project, their eye should be definitely on the project plan. Their eye should be definitely on the meeting the objectives. All that is correct, but they should also be aware that there is an environment that is beyond the project and within the project, which may not 100% concur with our project plan. Because there may be other things. Say one of our project team members may be planning to quit. Somebody may be getting to marry. They may be planning to get married. Someone may have children, or they may be expecting a child, or something may be happening in the family. There may be an operation. There may be something else. So these all become very critical when we are executing a project. So what we have to be very careful is that we have to keep our ears and eyes open for all these things. While these are all big pictures that very very small minute things, but they do affect the big picture that we are talking about. Next is that the third aspect is to challenge assumptions and mental models. Ashoka Vanika Nyayaha. See, in Ramayana, they say that, Ravana kidnapped Sita and took her to his kingdom in Lanka. So he kept her in Ashoka Grove. So the moment you talk about Ashoka Grove, you remember Sita. Ashoka is like, any woods means like Sita is remembered. In the same manner, what actually happens is that when we like it or not, when we as project managers, we come to the table with many biases. And then there are so many assumptions on which we work. And that assumption comes from our past experience. Nothing wrong in that. But what we have to be very careful is that we don't, we should be sure that not every wood is a Ashoka tree. Not it can be a Nilgiri, it can be anything. So when we sit on the table and we start, the assumption is not only we have to challenge another person's assumptions, which is a customer's assumption or a any stakeholder's assumption, but we have to be very, very clear about challenging our own biases, our own assumptions. That is the biggest problem. And the mental model, that is, we say that, okay, this person is useless. Last time he took leave in the wrong period. Because of that, all of us got into stress. So we can't trust that person. Like that, things are, we start, basing our judgments based on what happened in the past. So what we have to do is that we have to sit and actually challenge those assumptions. We have to ask questions. That is when we are in a position to actually deal with many situations and reduce stress. The fourth part is to use modeling and scenario. For this, it is Ikshu Vikara Nyaya. Ikshu is sugarcane. Vikaraha is conversion, transformation. So the thing is that you have to have, see, for the process of conversion, if you go to a unit where they prepare, where they manufacture jaggeries or they prepare sugars and batches, what they do is that when a sugar cane arrives, they will not crush the entire sugar cane at one shot. They will take a little bit of sugar cane and they will run that and they will make a pilot. And once the pilot is there, they will check what is the permutation combination that of chemicals they have to use in that particular batch. And on that basis, they will then, process the entire sugar cane. So what we really have to do is that as a project manager, we have to, especially where we are working on new things, where we are working on new technologies, where we are working on new processes, where we are working with new team members, what we really have to do is that, like that Ikshu Vikara, we have a process, we will have to have use modeling, just run a small thing, find out how much we can push somebody, how much that process can be pushed, what are the variations we can do within that process, what are the issues that are there, everything we can finalize, and then we will be in a position to move further. Next is proactive management of integration. That is Sate Panchas Saditi Nyaya. See, the thing is that when we are talking of integration, it is all about how well we break the components within the project. So the more the project is, the components are broken, much easy it becomes for us to put them all together when we are integrating it. What I have seen is that in many projects, there are so many sub projects that are there, and people do not actually try to build the links between sub projects, especially if we are managing teams like multiple teams, and each team is working on different aspects of tiny components of the same project. Then the team will think that what they are delivering is a project. For them, it is a project, but for you, it is a tiny component of a big project. So the linkages are very, very critical and very, very important. So it is important that we have to break down those links, those all the areas of interaction very, very clearly. And on that basis, we should be in a position to, once we are proactive, then integration becomes very easy. Otherwise, it becomes a nightmare. The sixth aspect is to demonstrate leadership behavior that is focused on agreed team goals, seek resources, generate consensus, negotiate and resolve conflict, building cohesive project team, and empathy. The next three are self-awareness of bias and behavior, managing, adapting change, and role modeling. Now, with the sixth principle to demonstrate leadership, focus is on agreed team goals. Brahmara Nyaya. Brahmara is bee. See, if you observe bees in the forest, they don't waste their time. They go to the flower that, we will give them honey. They just go and secrete the honey. They don't destroy the flower. They go away. In a similar manner, every project manager, it is very, very important to, first of all, define and agree on the goals. And number two, focus on only delivering those goals. See, it is great to say that I did many other things within the project. So many R&D we did, so many other great things we did. But I don't think that, a project manager, a good project manager would do anything more than what a bee will do with the flower. They will, first and foremost, they will go and make sure that the core and basic principles are delivered. After that, if they have the time, resources, and interest, they can definitely do a lot of things beyond that. Then the second aspect of demonstrating leadership power is to seek resources and support. Danda Chakra Nyaya. See, this is in a very same way that a potter, no, he has to use the right quality of mud, he has to use the wheels, the knife, rod, staff, everything at different, each one of them have different purposes, but when he combines them all well, he will get a beautiful pot. If there is a failure in any one usage of even any one tool, then it is just that the pot will not come out good. In the same manner, like the potter, a manager should know what resources he has to ask and at what time. See, what I have seen is that many managers, personally, my experience is that many managers will keep on asking resources. They will say, give me 100 resources, I will deliver faster. But the simple fact is that even if it takes 100 resources, you will not be able to deliver even a single day faster. If the right optimum resources they need is 10 or 12 or 1 or 15 or whatever number. So this is something that they will have to keep in mind and make sure they don't waste money and time seeking resources that is not required. Next, the third aspect is to generate consensus. Guda Jimikara Nyayaha. That is when, like all of us would have experienced this. If we have to, in childhood at least, children, if they have to be given bitter medicine, first what the doctor or the parent will do is that they will put some sweet in the mouth so that when the child is, enjoying the sweet, the bitter medicine is also put in so that it will get into the body without too much of the child throwing up the medicine. In the same manner, the consensus has to be brought through using tact, by bringing consensus can happen only through tactful handling of situation. It cannot handle through authority and all that. Sometimes authority works, but most times authorities cannot be, you can't generate consensus within teams, especially if you have got smart kids or smart people working in your team, if you try to bulldoze them. So you have to, sweeten the entire process, and then, make people agree on common terms so that they all work together and complete the task. Fourth aspect is to negotiate and resolve conflict. Prathama Malla Nyayaha. See, what it essentially means is that, if you are like, they used to say that if you have to defeat another group of wrestlers, what you really have to do is look for the strongest wrestler in the other team, and you have to defeat that strongest wrestler. So once you defeat that, all the other wrestlers will start coming into your team. This is what even rowdies do when they go, and they don't go and kill the smaller rowdies. They will try and make sure that they go and hit the biggest rowdy in the other team, so that the match will, the contest will cease. So we have to make sure that when we are negotiating, we will negotiate only on the core aspect. There is no point talking about, you said that, you said this, that, this, and that. So things that are not really, what shall I say, part of the core discussion. They have to be very focused on the the core requirement. The fifth aspect is on building cohesive project teams. Anda Chataka Nyayaha. Anda is mind, Chataka is sparrow. So what this, there is a story that, this this is a forest kind of an environment. A blind man, a person, a sister marries a blind person. That blind person is also he is a hunter. So the man is forced to take his blind brother-in-law with him. So he feels that this brother-in-law is a useless burden on me, because in the forest when I walk, this fellow, I'll have to track this fellow, and also I have to catch hold of the birds. But this blind brother-in-law, because he's also a hunter, he understands a lot of things. So when they go to the near the lake where they have to catch birds, the normal person, he keeps his snare closer to the lake. But what a blind man will do is he'll walk around the lake. He will look for a place where he hears a lot of noise, and he keeps his snare there. Within half an hour, the blind man will get a big bird, while the other fellow will only get a small bird after a long time. So what is important here is that we have to see, blind man in Sanskrit literature is used essentially for ignorance. So what they are talking about is that there is either the internal knowledge and external knowledge. External knowledge is all the books and everything else you read. Internal knowledge is what comes with experience. So if you have experience, then whether you speak or you don't speak, you will be in a position to know how to do that work and complete the work without any creating any unnecessary scenarios. But if you are just a bookworm and your knowledge is only limited to books, then you will not be able to apply it in real thing. So what a project manager actually has to do is, if he has to build a cohesive team, he has to have an experience of people who are very knowledgeable, then people who have very little knowledge, but little experience, but who have some textbook knowledge also. Because if there is emergency situation, people with exhaustive core, textbook knowledge, or what shall I say, principles, who know scientific principles, they may be able to help you get over those risks very easily. While people with experience will be able to handle a day-to-day task very, very much better, because they have handled that, many times. So this cohesive team project management should mean that you should have both the blind man as well as the the experienced man around with you. Then the empathy for the project team. Vayu Bhakshana Nyayaha. That is, you have to actually empathize here. Vayu Bhakshana means that it is like on Ekadashi day, people are fasting. Then during festivals, in many parts of India, people fast. So like that, fasting is very good. It's a great idea. So you don't fast, then it gives your system some time to recover. So in a similar manner, the manager should have empathy for the team. That is, what is that the team is actually talking or what is that they are feeling without actually doing. Giving, giving breaks to teams, taking them out for, for team meetings or team, binding or bondings and things like that. These are all things that will help the team to come together and, work together as a team. And they will not dread coming into the office. The seventh aspect is self-awareness of bias and behavior. Like I said earlier, yadrasho yakshaha yadrasho balihi nyayaha. That is, for every, in our Sanatana Dharma, we have got only one God, we have got many devatas. And yaksha is below the devata. That is, but every yaksha is, in a forest or every devata or yaksha, they have a particular liking for something. So you will say that if it is Krishna, I will, take, for instance, avalaki or puffed rice. Then for some other, for Tirumala Balaji, they have got laddu as a prasad. And then for, different devatas, you have got different prasad. So because you believe that the devata likes that particular prasad, you are offering that prasad to the deity. So in a similar manner, no, we have to make sure that, we have to know our own biases and we have to know the bias of everybody else in the team. And our own bias, we have to be very, very careful, because what actually happens is that we keep on interacting with everybody based on our bias and our own behavioral strengths and weaknesses, our internal conflicts. So we have to be like, Yaksha liking something, we should also like, we should know what we are liking. We should also know what others like, and we have to behave in a manner that is very mature. The eighth aspect is about managing, adapting change. Ahi kosha nyayaha. See, change is something that many people fear. They don't like to actually change. They are very, very happy with status quo. But what is important is that, just like a snake, it casts off its skin and it, just leaves that and goes away. We should also consider and work like that snake. We should just leave our biases, our experiences, habits, and everything. And we should focus on seeing what is very, very important to make sure that that particular project requirement is met or the particular goal is met. So that is a very, very important characteristics. I don't find that characteristic in many managers, because they will try and give excuses why something cannot be done rather than focusing on what can actually be done in a particular scenario. The next one is role modeling. Role modeling is how do you, if I have to be a leader, then I have to lead by example. Karib Brunhata Nyaya. See, it's an elephant, no, it does not announce its arrival. Simply, if it gives one, huge, this one, the whole forest is aware that the elephant is angry. And nobody comes across its path. But in the same manner, the elephant is actually a good example for it. It does not, demand respect. It just walks in a regal manner, and if all its entire herd follows. And in a similar manner, even lions and tigers and leopards, they don't come in the way of the elephant. They just move away. But it is because you have the manager has a responsibility basically to be a role model, and he has to lead that. He has to deliver on what experiences he looks from the team. The seventh principle is to tailor-based leadership on context. Three aspects: reduction in waste, customer-oriented focus, and efficient use of project resources. First one is reduction of waste. We are talking about Ushara Vrishti Nyayaha. That is again rain. uh, you know, uh, we have seen that the rains in the sea is waste. In a similar, there is another Nyaya which talks about perfuming the dead. So here, no, what it says basically is that you have to make sure that all useless and waste activities within a project are totally eliminated. That is a very, very difficult task, but it's very important. What actually happens is that many team members come to us and they say that we have to do this, we have to do that. Then you have got quality guys, you have got compliance people, and all of them who are doing their jobs, who will come and give project managers a huge task list, and especially customers, quality guys and customer compliance people will come up with huge lists actually about things that don't concern the project, but you are asked to deliver on those things. So a project manager, in any kind of project should know what are the absolute deliverables that he is responsible for, and what are these things that he is not actually responsible for, but where he has to contribute. And there are many things where he does not even have to contribute, but he will end up doing it because somebody else asked him to do. So this is all very, very important. The second aspect of customer-oriented focuses. Kshiram vihaya rochaka svastasya sauvira ruchim anubhavati. See, this is about a guest being there. A guest will go to somebody's friend's house. There they have prepared, Kshira is, what shall I say? It is, payasam or whatever it is, a sweet that is there. So they would have used the best ingredients to prepare a sweet and for the guest. But the guest will come and say, "Oh, you have got gruel. Let me eat that rice gruel because I like it." In a same manner, no, what actually happens is that in many times, what I have seen is that customers, no, they don't. You may have a fantastic technologically, very, very forward-looking and extremely better. What you believe is a better solution, but your customer may not necessarily look for those solutions. He may look for something very more fundamental, rudimentary. There is no point in you trying to argue with your customer on what he requires. It is, I think, much better and more astute for you to understand what the customer wants and deliver that, rather than trying to impress the customer about what you believe is your professional capability. Next is efficient use of project resources. Jala Mrala Nyaya. It is like the stem of a lotus leaf. See, when the lotus is in the stem is in such a manner that it binds the lotus in the water itself. If the level of the water goes up, the stem will grow, and if the level of the water goes down, the stem sinks. So in all scenarios, only the leaf is outside the water, while everything else is under the water. In the same manner, the project manager's responsibility is to make sure that there is optimum usage of available resources. They must not ask for a request resources that they don't need, or they should, try and, cut corners which will make them to fail. So this is very, very important. The eighth component is to build quality into the process. Performance, conformity, reliability, resilience, satisfaction, uniformity, efficiency, sustainability. All these are what constitutes quality. Mana adhina meya siddhi. That is, it's important to know what standards that you are measuring and how you measure that. See, first thing that I see in many, many projects is that people are not aware about what is the standard on which they are measured. That is, they may say that we are working to ISI standards, BIS standards, or some other RDSO standards, or some other standards. Okay, that is fine, but then that is not what you are, measured against. They may say that, oh, I have to cut costs, I have to do something else, I have to deliver on time. No, those are all. You have to, what a project manager really requires is that they are allowed to know what is that they are going to be measured for, and they will have to know how that measure, they are working to meet that measure. So this is both explicit and implicit. They have to sit actually, when a project comes, they are allowed to sit with the client, they will have to sit with their finance, they will have to sit with their immediate manager, their management, everybody, and even their team members. They will have to understand what exactly each person is looking, and then quality comes when you define it properly, and then you ask people to live up to that particular quality standards, which doesn't change very frequently. If you do that, people will love to be with you, because most people don't like arbitrariness or the dynamic situation. They want stability. They want, you tell them that this is what I deliver, you give them freedom, they will deliver consistently, provided they are trained. So this is what is very key aspect. The second aspect is Sthali Pulakha Nyaya. That is when, this is something that I have seen from experience. Many managers, they start interfering in the work of their subordinates or peers or team members very often. Now, this is counterproductive. See, what is actually a manager should do is that just like a housewife or somebody will touch a single grain of cooked rice to see whether the entire, pot is ready to be eaten or whether the cooking has to continue. In the same manner, the manager should, build a system or process to assess the progress of the project, and they should, assess the progress from that perspective. That's what will help the team to be stable and make sure that they deliver consistently. Interfering into the, too much of close interference may not actually be very helpful. The next is to navigate complexity. Human behavior, basically, system behavior, uncertainty, technological innovations. Kurma Anganyaya. See, in a typical manner, how you navigate complexity is just like a tortoise. A tortoise will be, it will be moving around with its head and limbs out of its, different, but shell. But the moment it sees danger, it will take its body within the shell, and only the shell, hard shell, is exposed for somebody to fight or remove it. In the same manner, it is very important for a project manager to assess risk very, very, early. And when the risk is there, and if the team cannot handle that risk, it is important that the project manager saves the team from unnecessary, issues by making sure that only, they allow that entire, risk to pass, and while the team is protected. The 10th aspect is about to optimize risk responses. So how do you do that is by Shirsho Sharpo Deshantare Vaidya iti Nyaya. That is, see, when a snake comes and is trying to bite you, at that point, you can't think about looking for a foreign doctor to come and treat you. So first of all, no, you should be careful to see that you don't get a snake near you. And that snake actually comes, you should be if you know that you are in an area where there are snakes, you should have an antidote for the snake ahead of time, or you should have a doctor who will be in a position to treat, or at least there should be a hospital close by that you can go, or you should know of a practical process in which you will be able to self-treat or treat somebody in your team in a manner that they will be in a position to survive and not get scalded. So this is important for you to optimize the responses that you have for this. The 11th aspect is to embrace adaptability and resilience. Continuous learning, new ways of thinking and working, open organizational conversations, and understanding past learnings. These are the 4 important things. For continuous learning, we have Ikshu Danda Nyayaha. Ikshudandya means that, see, sugarcane, no, the base of the sugarcane carries more sweetness when compared to the top. So, in a similar manner, learning, no, it is a continuous process. New things we learn, we don't become very good, or experts on it in the first day. But as and when you start accumulating experience, you become better and better. So, continuous learning is important because that's the only way you can become a better and more rounded human being. So that is very important for a project manager. What I have seen is that the moment managers, at least in India, the moment somebody is called a manager, he ceases to learn. He thinks that now he is the big boss, so he doesn't have to do any more learning. All he has to do is that control the subordinates. That's not how it works. Actually, we should always keep on learning. Just like the fatter the sugar can become, more juice it gives. The second aspect is new ways of thinking and working. Dhanya Palala Nyayaha. In a paddy field, what actually happens is that if you have ever been in an agriculture farm, what actually happens is that they clean up the entire farm. They deweed it and then they start the process of sowing the paddy. But as soon as they start watering the plants, what you see is that more than the paddy, it is the weeds that start growing up very fast. But over time, what will happen is that you keep on pulling out the weeds, but as and when you do it, over a period of time, even if the weeds are there, the paddy will start growing faster and it will become bigger. So the thing is that, see, we in anytime we are doing any kind of what shall I say, the new experiments, there are bound to be failures. Then there are bound to be distractions. Then there are bound to be people. There are going to be people who will blame you for failures. But end of the day, you should understand that the new ways of working is what will enable us to survive, and that you should be open to doing new ways of working. Just like a paddy will grow more than the weeds. When we adopt to new thinking and new working, we will get to see more results, better results for the team and the company. The third aspect is to open organizational conversations. Vaji Mandura Nyaya. Just like, in a stable, when we say it's a stable, we know it's for horses. It's not for pigs or human beings to stay, or for, cows, or for that matter, for. So, in the same manner, when we have open conversations, what actually happens is that many times there are a lot of assumptions that go into discussions. Especially if you work with people for a long time, then many of those assumptions are justified because you don't have to keep defining it every time. But what we also have to keep in mind is that in a team when new people are there, many of these assumptions can lead to internal problems within the team because it is not necessary that everybody understands this communication. So what a positive communication means, that you will have to be explicit when it is necessary. You have to be very, very what shall I say, curt or to the point when it is required. You have to be you can assume many things if the team knows what you are talking about, but you have to be very explicit if the team is new or they are not on the same wavelength that you are in. The fourth one is to understand from past learnings. Brihi bija nyayaha. See, when a paddy is sown, many seeds know what actually happens is they die. So, or at least we think that they die because they are not giving they are not growing into saplings. So many times what happens is that you know, when there is drought at any adverse situation, all the saplings will die. So farmers think that they are done with. But what they don't understand is that once the rain starts, the next time, immediately after a couple of rains, couple of days of rain, old seeds which they thought had died, the seeds will start germinating again on their own. In that same manner, we have to be very careful that, it's important to understand past learnings, but we have to also have to know that we have to sit back and analyze the failures and the analysis, and also give time for the failures to not recur, or successes also uh, to repeat. So to become a better version of ourselves, it is important that we have to uh, understand and learn from the past, but also give time for these learnings to become, consistent with our performance. The last part is change. Jala Kataka Renu Nyayaha. Kataka seeds, no, are basically they are used in cleaning water. That is, they are nuts that are used in cleaning water traditionally. What actually happens is that when these nuts are added in they are basically when they are dropped into the muddy water, they carry the mud and the dust down, and due to they pull down the mud and dust, and the water comes clean at the top. So in that same manner, no, what is very important is that the project manager should be open to change, but it is very important that they should be the catalyst, and there should be the reason for they should make sure that they catalyze the transformation, but they don't overshow the process. That's a very, very important issue, because what I have seen is many times people are, they overshadow the whole process. They think that they are the reason for change. They become the whole, they inhibit change basically in their quest to become a better this one. So this is what basically I wanted to present to you, essentially because I just thought that some of these nyayas would help you to give you an insight of the depth in which Sanskrit language and Sanskrit text can they have a, and they can, there is a lot of things that there is many things that one can what shall I say, get from the old text, if they are in a position to read them from different perspectives. Actually, what I have done is that I've just opened the scope for you to look at many of the ancient texts, that if you are getting a chance to read them from a management perspective, and also know that all management, everyday management that we do in our offices and in our projects, they are all covered in our texts in one or many ways. In my book, I have covered about 376 nyayas. What I have done here is that I have covered about 50 nyayas. And the 376 nyayas are very particular to management that I have covered in my book. But there are thousands and thousands of nyayas in Sanskrit. And not just in Sanskrit, but in every Indian language. If I would, like Kupamandoka Nyaya is there in common. I'm aware that it is common and it's there in every language. So, in a similar manner, I think, in every Indian language, if you start using Nyayas, it will definitely add a lot of, what shall I say, color and context to your everyday management practice. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, sir, for such an insightful session, which is so educated. The way you blended together with real-time examples, and the way you connected the concept of this methodological approach, decision making, and critical thinking, that was really excellent. Thank you so much, sir. And it's a time for question answer session. If the participants have any questions, you can please post it in the chat box here.
Yeah. As they post the questions,
Yes.
I have a small comment to make. Many times, as teachers of management, we get students without work experience. And in my experience, using these corporate cases actually doesn't make so much sense, because the student is not able to contribute. And I simply like the idea of maxim or a nyaya, which is coming from the Shastras, which is simplifying a very complex truth into one line or maybe two lines. And then the best part is always accompanied with a story. And actually, the story gives us the name for the nyaya. And this, I think, is a good way to teach, because students can remember the story, they remember the context, and they remember the nyaya. So I believe that for management education, this has a lot of scope. So I wanted to just share my views about this. Thanks, Narendra ji. It was a wonderful lecture, and I look forward to hearing more from you.
Definitely. Thank you very much. And if you are interested, my book is available on Amazon. So you can just pick it up from Amazon.
Yeah. We'll do so. Yeah.
So there are a couple of questions, sir. The first question is it possible to make Nyaya in public-private partnership projects?
Yes, it is possible, because see, Nyayas basically, end of the day, are just, it is many, as Mr. Sudhakar said, very complex theories is put together in one or two words as Nyayas. So it is essentially, from that perspective, yes, in a public-private, in any project, I'm not limiting it to either public projects or private projects, but in any project, one can apply Nyayas. Only thing, and what I have seen is that, even in schools and all that, our teachers used to refer to Nyayas very, very, even to scold us, they used to use Nyayas. And there are, and even in villages, I have heard farmers and, I have heard traders use Nyayas very frequently. It is just that in our local languages, Nyayas are used, but we don't know that they are Nyayas. That is, but if one can start listing and using it, yes, in a private project, uh, in a private public partnership projects or any project, communication can always be done through Nyayas because they are the easiest way that you can express a very complex phenomena.
Oh, thank you. So the next question is Panchatantra based on Nyaya? Is the next question.
See, in my book, what I have done is that I have used very, very, frequently from Panchatantra and Hitopadesha. Like Mr. Sudhakar said, see, these entire Nyayas are based on some fables or stories or something like that. Now, what actually happens is the other thing is that they are also based on Adhyatma. That is, many Nyayas are coming from Shankaracharya's texts, from Upanishads, they are coming from Aranyakas, Brahmanas, and all that, and they are used for a very, very specific purpose there. Now, what I thought was that when I can't possibly, in a management book, I can't speak. Say, I can understand the context in which Shankaracharya has used it, but for a foreign audience, they will not be able to appreciate that. So, what I essentially thought was that I should use something from stories for children if I have to talk to a foreign audience. Because when I wrote this book, it was for a foreign audience. Because somebody, a few management professors and students from the United States, they wanted to incorporate Nyayas in their, what shall I say, daily, in their college routine. So that is how this whole project started. So I then thought that let me start, introducing Panchatantra to US students and people from Christian or Islamic background and people coming from foreign background. I thought that Panchatantra should be the natural way for them to introduce our Sanskrit Nyayas and other fables because it gives it becomes easy for them to appreciate. And definitely Panchatantra and Hitopadesha, very good. They have got, I can say, hundreds and hundreds. If you read the original Panchatantra in or Hitopadesha in Sanskritam, you will get all the Nyayas that you find in my book. You find there, and at least in my book, no, I have exhaustively used Panchatantra. Quotes from Panchatantra.
So the next question is, what is not Nyaya? What kind of Nyaya principles commonly used for effective decision making in complex thinking and conflicting goals?
See, Nyaya, see, the thing is that what is not Nyaya? Well, I can't say because Nyaya is just that when our ancestors got into, they had a complex, very, very complex philosophy to communicate. They communicated through Nyaya. So Nyaya itself is not the philosophy. Nyaya is the process in which the complex theories are communicated. So today also we are having the same challenge of trying to communicate very difficult theories to our students or to others, to other stakeholders, I can say. So if you have to communicate to that, Nyaya is, I still find very, very good thing, a good way of communicating. And if you can add a story or a parable when you are communicating very complex things, that becomes even more easy for the other person to appreciate and accept or, a challenge.
So the next question is, how do you justify Matsya Nyaya? Even a small fish has a right to live.
Yes, that is true. And that is what is one of the principles on which the Sanatana Dharma itself is, that's the basic principles of Sanatana Dharma. Any of the Shed Darshanas finally come down to that. And
So-
that is also the management concept of what we are seeing today, going in for everybody wanting to become billionaires, and you want to, you want to keep on multiplying your net, your top, your profits and your sales. That is greed basically, but that there has to be a stop to that. And in that greed, we think that in that competition we can kill everybody else. That is actually greed. That is not the way that a mature human race should work. But Matsya Nyaya is how, basically they have advocated, not just coming from, Hindu or, any Sanatana Dharma or Vedic or any background. This is what even Christianity and even Islam, or for that matter, Jew or shamanic, texts, or even Zen Avesta in Iran, they all talk about the same thing.
The next question is, how feasible is this to apply the Nyaya in educational field, sir?
See, what I believe, the reason why I actually, when you asked me to speak about Nyayas, the why, and you told me that there were management educators here, the reason why I picked up Nyaya and management principles is essentially because I wanted to just let them know that they can use Nyaya in almost every subject that they are teaching. And because it will help them to carry very complex principles to the most dullest student or most disinterested student easily. And from an education perspective, I feel that use of nyayas and use of parables, that is stories, if either from Panchatantra or even from Puranas or from Hitopadesha, Aesop fables, anywhere you pick up those stories, if this combination is used, I think any kind of education will become a breeze.
Yes.
And to put it in perspective, if you even know why, if you know the story behind Panchatantra, you will realize that the king had dullards as children, stupid children he had, and then he wanted those children to become, capable of managing his kingdom in a very short duration, and the guru helped them to get there. So within a very, very short duration, within a month's time or whatever. So this is the power that nyayas and stories have, to communicate, especially for educators. I don't think they have a choice.
The next question
Thanks,
is,
sir. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I thought, yeah. Go on.
sir, if at all you could give some closing remarks for the session, sir.
Yeah. So I already mentioned it. There are so many questions, and one of the important comments that came up, I was just reading, was that 90 minutes is too short for such a session, and that we should probably do a workshop on this. It's a good idea, and definitely we will work on that. Thanks, everyone who participated. Most of you have been around for 1.5 hours, and many of you have asked questions. And I am grateful to all the participants for being there. Thanks again to Mr. K V Narendra, for taking the time out and doing this lecture and a lovely presentation. Thanks, Bhagya, for conducting this event. Good evening and namaste to all.